Show your host in Petruzzi in the neutral area and around the world, and we've got some very fascinating guests on the show. Today we've got a really interesting guest who's going to give an insight into doing our best to avoid the viral spiral. So, TV personality and lifestyle advocate, Millie Mackintosh, welcome to the show. Great to have you on board.
Thank you very much for having me. How are you doing today?
Yeah, all good, all good. Just on the sort of viral spiral, it's that time of year, Millie, we want to socialise, get out there, but even if you're not socialising, you're going to work and everyone seems to be sort of like coughing and spluttering and sneezing everywhere, really.
Right.
And, what's your take on it?
It's hard to avoid it.
It is.
It feels hard to avoid it. Actually, over nearly half of Brits apparently find themselves falling into this continual viral spiral of illness since the pandemic, and I know it's definitely something that has affected me as a mum with young kids, and that's why it's really important to me that as a family we're giving our immune system some support through the winter months so that we can actually enjoy all of our festive plans without illness getting in the way. And I have been taking Sambicol, which is an immunity boosting supplement, every morning over the last couple of months, and I give it to my kids as well. We take it with our breakfast, and it's the UK's #1 brand for immunity, and it's full of antioxidants and vitamin C, and it's backed by over 25 years of scientific research. So that's really what we're doing to help look after our immune systems.
That's really interesting. I must admit I've not sort of heard of it before, Millie. Can you give us a bit of an insight into what it is? I'm sort of keen to check it out myself, to be honest.
Absolutely, yeah. It's an immunity supplement. It comes as a liquid, but also it comes as like gummies that you can take, and it's like made from elderberries, and it's like this liquid. You just take a spoonful. It tastes delicious. Kind of tastes like berries, and it's an immunity supplement that you can take daily to help to prevent these illnesses and getting into the viral spiral, and help to, sometimes it is impossible to avoid picking up a bug, but it's actually about the recovery time and, maybe getting over it in a day or two rather than it taking like a week and actually missing work and missing out on all of these festive opportunities and gatherings that are happening.
Absolutely, and it's really interesting. I'm one of sort of people who try and eat well and exercise and other stuff as well, but obviously there's only so much you can do really, if sort of where that's concerned. To be fair, yourself sort of really. You mentioned that you got a family, and with young kids it's not as easy in terms of picking up bugs and stuff from school, other kids as well. And in terms of yourself, as well as like using the Sambicol, do you also sort of what else do you do for yourself? Just some tips for our listeners, really, in terms of
Absolutely, you can't just rely on taking a supplement. You've got to look at your health overall and what you can do to support your health and immunity. For me, it's a mixture of things. Exercise as often as possible, even if it's 20 minutes, 10 minutes, even just doing something that like raises your heart rate. That's really important. Spending time outside and getting some like fresh air, being in nature, looking at the amount of stress that you've got and how the stress is affecting you, because stress can really affect your immune system. Sleep is really important, and trying to get that kind of good 7 to 8 hours in when you can. Kind of reducing screen time. Definitely, I find being outside in nature, and then looking at nutrition, apart from supplementation, also, mainly what we're eating, what we're actually putting into our bodies is so important, and really looking at the foods that we're consuming and making sure that we're trying to eat really varied amount of different fruit and veg, which we know is very important for our gut microbiome, for our gut health, which is really important for our immune systems too. And also, I think for me, something that really helps is trying to introduce some mindfulness into my week. I try to do a kind of guided meditation with some breath work every morning, and I find that helps me to feel calmer through my days, through my weeks. So that's something that's really benefited me as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting stuff. A lot of that resonates with myself too. I do mindfulness daily and breath work as well, and sort of consciously try and eat a lot of veg and sort of fruits. The only thing I would say this time of year, like, I went to a couple of social events, for example, on the weekend, and people are putting sort of chocolates out. I've tried to cut sugar as much as I can, over a long
It's
period
hard.
of time. Yeah, it is absolutely, for sure. And I've looked at different things like, D and zinc and C and try and use those sort of vitamins too. But obviously, like you says, I mean, it's always, I'm always on the lookout for new ideas. But just in terms of, like, where can our listeners learn more about what you do and sort of, the product you mentioned there?
So if you want to find out more, then you can head to sambacol.co.uk, and you can also go to your local Boots to purchase if you want to try Sambacol for yourself. And I'm always posting about what I'm doing on my own wellness journey with my family over on my Instagram. So if you want to follow me on there, then I'm always sharing, what I'm up to. I made some kind of chicken and veg broth with lots of like ginger and garlic at the weekend. Whenever I do a roast chicken, I get really excited to make a bone broth. This is what I spend my weekends doing now. So I made a big chicken and veg soup using the bone broth that I'd saved from my last roast chicken. And I think it's things like that as well, which are really good for your immunity. I like to share kind of what I'm up to.
No, absolutely. It's really interesting, and to see other people's perspectives on these sort of things as well. And certainly a lot of things you've mentioned there resonate with myself, and I'll definitely sort of check Sambacol out myself, really, because I'm always sort of on the types of people who's on the lookout to see if there's anything else out there that can sort of help along the way. That's for sure. But I've got some good practical tips as well, I think, for our listeners in terms of mindfulness, walking, getting fresh air. They're things that pretty much everyone can do and just make time to do. And I mean, just on that sort of, like for yourself, I mean, how important do you think it is to sort of make time for people sort of listening for themselves to do some mindfulness, to do some walk and do a bit of breath work? Because they don't take a great deal of time to do if you can sort of activity schedule. I mean, yourself, obviously, young family, you find the time to do it. What are you sort of, how important it is, do you think, for people to actually make that time for themselves to do things to sort of help themselves feel better?
I think it's really important. It can feel impossible. You're like, where do I get this time? So you have to look at how you can carve it out. So for me, it was go to bed earlier, which means you can get up earlier before the kids and have that time, because once they're up, realistically, it's not going to happen. And my daughter now has like a clock in her room. She knows she's going to come. She can come downstairs. I know she's going to come downstairs from 6:30. So I've got like till 6:30. If I get up at 5:30, I've got an hour where I can do. This morning I did my breath work, meditation, and I did a half an hour yoga before the kids were up, and that's what has set me up for the day. Made me feel great. And I went to bed I was in bed asleep by 9 p.m. So I had my 8 hours sleep. So maybe that sounds like a sacrifice, but I do think you have to sacrifice something in order to get that time. So you have to look at where you're willing to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point and a great tip for our listeners. I've started, doing similar myself recently, where, it's easy to sort of stay up that extra hour or two just watching sort of, whatever on TV type thing.
So easy to just binge watch something, and it's so tempting. Like, I just want to watch the next one. And then, I only probably watch an hour of something if I watch something in the evening, because also I don't want to be watching something right up to the moment when I go to sleep, because it's not great for your sleep to be having that screen time. So I try to kind of unwind and do a bit of a bedtime routine before I actually go to sleep, which I really find helps me get that undisturbed sleep. That is if my kids don't come in, so you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's just really interesting and informative, and I want to thank you for your time. Really, it's been really interesting. I know that the listeners are sort of taken away a few tips, that's for sure, or maybe sort of reinforce some things that they're already doing anyway themselves. So thanks again for your time, and have a fantastic day.
You too, thank you so much, and happy Christmas.
And you too, bye.
Bye.